Okay. Hi. So if you haven't talked before, I'm Philip. I work for a company called NextJournal. NextJournal is like a scientific writing tool. So if you plan to write a study, you could use us eventually. Not yet, like we're not live yet, but hopefully be live soon. I'm one of the owners of Kaffeemik. It's a little coffee shop in Vienna in the 7th. So if you like good coffee, visit us, please. But I want to start off with telling you that you're all lucky bastards. When you start out with, like, from what I've heard, many of you are starting out with the first programming language, like with Lemmings now. And when I started out with JavaScript, which is like a very popular programming language to start out with. It's popular because it does a lot of stuff, like you can do server programming, all the stuff that's listed there. And not every language can do this. So most language can only do one of those or two of those parts. So the thing with learning a programming language or picking a programming language is you're not only picking the language, you're picking an ecosystem. And that ecosystem is comprised of many different things. For once it's the community, then it's the mindset, and then it's the language itself. And for me, like starting out with JavaScript, like I've been doing this for 12 years now, and so this is a happiness graph. And you see, like over the last 11 years or so, my happiness went steadily down. And it went steadily down because like the complexity and craziness of the ecosystem went steadily up. So it's a really nice inverse correlation there. So there's Elm, which I also discovered 2 years ago, which was great. It was a great relief for me for a short time, but it's too young and too limited. So in the end, I found Clojure. It took me like only 10 or so years to do so. But I found it and everything's good now. So, and the story that I'm going to tell you is why Clojure is great. So you see it fulfills the same profile as JavaScript. So you can do everything with it that you can do with JavaScript, which is a nice thing. And for us at NextJournal, we also started out writing NextJournal in JavaScript. And we had to rewrite it 3 times from scratch. The reason for that is that one, complexity was like creeping up. And the other thing is that it's like, it's a complicated product. It does a lot of things. I'll give you a quick demo later. But what I can tell you is we did the 3rd rewrite with Clojure. And it took us like only 2 months compared to what you see with JavaScript. And it's not only the time that was great, it was also a great experience for us. So programmer happiness was at an all-time high, and basically is pretty much still at an all-time high. So at that point, you might want to ask yourself, like, why are such contrasts possible? So, and it has pretty much to do with complex versus simple. What does it mean? It's like it's a loaded comparison, but in our context, it means like if we take JavaScript, for example, and it doesn't have to be JavaScript, it can be a lot of languages that are not Clojure. You see that the language itself gives you a lot of stuff. It's like an endless list of things that you can choose to implement your goals. If you compare it to Clojure, Clojure really gives you a very small set of things that you can work with. And that's a good thing. Why is that a good thing? So, because it defines the culture you're working in. Like it's pretty much, it cultivates the code that you produce. So if you look at JavaScript, like JavaScript is designed by a committee. So it's a group of people, each person representing a specific company, and they're trying to get it all in so that it works best for them. If you compare that to Clojure, Clojure is a benevolent dictatorship. That means there is like one person at the top, that's Rick Hickey, that's the guy who invented Clojure. from that guy, like that guy's philosophy kind of permeates the whole ecosystem. And with Rich, like simplification is like a big thing. So if a proposed change to the language doesn't qualify like Rich's philosophies or Rich's standards, he just won't take it. And what's good about that is like if you keep stuff very simple and limited, it creates a different mindset when you're using these things. Like for once, if you have a lot of choice, in my opinion, you give less thought to how you implement something. It's like you have this big list of stuff to choose from. You choose the thing that somebody else thought that's the best thing to solve your problem. If you compare that to less choice, you give it more thought. You think about how you could implement something. So in the JavaScript world, we would say that like this is a common thing that people are thinking this is not good enough. Let's fix it. And this leads to a situation where you have the same problem solved like 100 times. And there are nuances in difference, and it's very hard for you to find out what's the best tool for the job. If you compare that to the Clojure world, it's like you're the maker of your own universe. You can do whatever the hell you want, but you have to think hard about it. So in other terms, like excess leads to boredom, and scarcity leads to creativity, which is a great thing because creativity and scarcity, these two things, they attract a certain kind of people. And like it's not like this slide is not about like it doesn't necessarily attract hippies, but it attracts people that think differently. And if you have a lot of people that are thinking differently about stuff, it's cool because it creates next level shit. And you have like a lot of next level shit like in the Clojure ecosystem. For once, you have like stuff like live programming with Big Wheel. You have stuff like time traveling databases like Datomic. You have self-healing code, which is something that's not getting a lot of attention, but people are doing it. And these are all things that occur within the Clojure ecosystem, like all the time. It's just that people, it's an underappreciated thing. So you're a really lucky bastard that this is the first programming language that you're exposed to. Like you don't have to spend like 10 plus years to find it. Somebody's bringing it to you like on a silver tablet, just go for it. So I could give you a quick demo about some of these things. Like for once there is, oh, it doesn't work now, okay. Gotta mirror this, sorry. So for once there's Nextjournal. Nextjournal is just, as I said, like a little editor. So you can use it pretty much like Word. You can edit text, but then you can also code in it. So you have like these things that we call code cells. They can be in a specific programming language. You can connect them together. So here is a code cell that takes some values from the cell above here. And it's all kind of like connected together and evaluated as you change it. So if I change something here and I re-evaluate that node, the graph down there should change as well. Just takes a little because that's my local machine, but as you see, like I changed something up there, it changed something down there. And we're using Figwheel and all these things that I just mentioned before during development, which is also nice. So our workflow usually looks like if I change something in the code here, let's say I produce an error. Again, that's gonna take a little bit because it's my local machine. But you see that I didn't have to touch anything in the browser, just something pops up and says, oh, you produced an error in this or that line. And this is like a really great experience because if you compare that to other ecosystems, that's not a common thing. Clojure does this for 3+ years now, and other communities are just starting with this stuff. So this is something that is common, so you just can use it, like go for it. Or like if let's say I add a button here, so I don't have to do much much to kind of like load it. It just appeared up there. So yeah, that's some of the things that are common in the Clojure world that you can make use of, that are not so common in other ecosystems. Okay, let's continue. Clojure gives you a couple other language features. Those are not so important for you at this point. It's like you just live with them. At some point you will understand them. But let's say that these are all things that make it great so that you can produce correct code. You have like lots of situations where other programming language make your life hard because it's hard to think about some of the stuff that you produced. It's hard to think about why results are in a certain way. You don't have that a lot with Clojure. It usually gives you a sane way to deal with data. It also has great integration. If you want to use stuff that are used in other ecosystems, like in the JavaScript or a Java ecosystem, you can just use them. It means like if there's anything like, I don't know, something for checksums or image uploading or whatever that somebody else in that ecosystem created, you just plug it in, you can use it. What's really nice about Clojure is like we all have like this tangled mess in our heads and we're trying to create stuff. There's usually no like direct path to it. And it's hard enough to kind of like find out like what you want to build. It's nice if you have something that untangles it a little bit and makes it nicer for you to go about it. And Clojure pretty much does that. Okay, that's it. Peace and love.